want to officially welcome you to Horse Illustrated's webinar series. My name is Mary Cage. I am the digital manager here at Horse Illustrated, so I'll be your host today. And of course, our special guest this month is Ryan Rose. He is a horseman and clinician who teaches workshops and clinics all over the world, in addition to, of course, his comprehensive training program at his home in Wisconsin and his online videos that he shares with a large social media following across YouTube, Patreon, Facebook, and blogs. He's certainly, known for creating those partnerships between horses and their owners. That's really his true passion, and his skills and horse development really set him apart. And he also enjoys competing in training horses and ranch versatility. So plenty to learn from with Ryan today. Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Mary, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always like to, I always like to start these by asking if you can tell us how you very first got the horse bug.
Yeah, I was a horse crazy kid. I was one of those kids that when we drive by a pasture with horses in it, I was hanging out the window looking at them. And my request for my birthday every year was to go on one of those paid trail rides somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then fortunately, when I was 13 years old, my parents let me start taking riding lessons. And so then I jumped in feet first.
Awesome. Yeah, it's one of those things where a lot of times it's just kind of naturally in your blood and you can't shake it. So when did you know that you wanted to take that love for horses and grow it into something bigger and eventually a career?
Yeah. So I was signed up to go to college, and I was going to get a business degree, and that was my plan based on just what my parents kind of had encouraged me to do. Right. And there was an opportunity that came up to go start colts for a big time trainer in Texas. And I was like, boy, I might not have to get a real job. I could just go train horses for a living. And so that's where I decided to pivot and focus on that full time. I was training horses when I was in high school. I actually taught some clinics when I was 16 years old, and I became a farrier when I was 15 years old. And so I was full in on it. I was part of 3 different 4-H clubs. Nice. Anything horse related, I was doing and involved in.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you went ahead and got involved from very early start. And so I guess after you went and worked for that trainer, you kind of knew that was it for you. And you went on to study with world-class horsemen like Pat Pirelli, Doug Jordan, Craig Johnson. Can you talk a bit what those experiences were like and what you learned from those horsemen?
Yeah, so I started training horses on my own, and I had no idea how to run a business. And so the horse training side of it was going fairly well in the area. It was in northern Wisconsin, just kind of near where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of horses booked in training, and that was all going well. But the business side of it, I didn't know really how to do that. And so I wanted to learn more about that. And then as I was training horses for people, I realized they needed a lot of education on how to continue progressing with the horse once the horse went home. So a lot of the horses I was training were colt starting or, difficult horses, and I would have them for 30 days or 60 days, and then I would get new ones in. And so the owners needed to learn a lot. So I was trying to figure out how to navigate doing more lessons and clinics and things like that alongside the horse training. And that's what interested me about going to study with Pat Pirelli, is I knew they had a big people teaching program. And so I wanted to learn more about that. To be honest, at the time, I didn't really think I had a lot more to learn. It was kind of I got the horse training thing. I need to learn the business side of it. But when I got there, I had all this new information that was available to me. And I already had a lot of experience training horses. And so all the new information was really easy for me to latch onto and practice. So one of the big things I took away from the 4 years that I was with Pat was I had a lot of time to experiment with his horses and try things and not have a lot of pressure of, you're getting paid by a client to train their horse. That's a difficult situation to really try to experiment with and learn new things. So my time with Pat really helped me with that. And then also I led a lot of the courses that they were holding on campus. So sometimes we'd have 60 students in one course. And I got a lot of experience and practice teaching people. I almost feel
Sure.
bad now for some of the people that went through those courses because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of making it up as I went.
That's funny, but that makes sense that, I mean, you obviously had this passion for horses from a very young age, and I think a lot of us do that. We're just so focused on the horses, we kind of forget, oh, like in order to make a career out of this, we have to understand business too. So, that's a really interesting perspective that that's something that you learned from Pat and these guys, in addition to, obviously adding on to your equine experience. And um, what would you say is, so important about aspiring horsemen and horsewomen to learn from those experienced mentors, whether that be business focused or equine focused education?
I'm sorry, what was the beginning part of that question?
What would you say is like why is it important for, an aspiring horseman to learn from these experienced mentors like Pat?
Yeah, it's kind of like the phrase of secondhand gold is as good as new. Like the guys that I've studied with, I had put in like maybe around 10,000 hours of horse training experience, which is a lot. But like some of those my mentors, they've spent hundreds of thousands of hours doing it, and so
Yeah.
they just have a different level of experience, um, of seeing that many more different horses and unique things. And anybody that really wants to get good at it, if you can plug yourself into some sort of mentorship or apprenticeship with people, and really learn their program and study their program, that's a great way to take what they've done. If you like everybody kind of has their own style, but a
Mhm.
lot of the principles of it are the same. And so if you really like how somebody does something, it's really good to kind of lock into that program. So like I didn't really talk about my relationship with Doug Jordan or Craig Johnson, but those two in particular have had a huge. So I didn't study with them in terms of like a apprenticeship or anything. I did a lot of clinics with them, watched their
Mhm.
videos, things like that.
Yeah, gotcha.
They're both friends of mine now. Um, but Doug in particular, he trains cutting horses, so he's a Hall of Fame cutting horse trainer. He'll actually be showing at the Futurity this year.
Nice.
He hasn't done it in quite a while, but he has a way of teaching a horse to work a cow or a flag, where it's about doing less first and giving the horse responsibility and really getting it to be the horse's idea, which is what I was trying to do with every other aspect of horsemanship that I was doing. And so I really adapted his philosophy to horsemanship, cutting horse training into everything else that I do with horsemanship, whether
Yeah.
it's getting him to load into a trailer or teach him flying lead changes, anything like that. So I really credit Doug with a lot of the program that I do now.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think with anything, but with horses, there's always things to learn, different perspectives to gain, and various avenues. And that's cool that you're able to apply such a specific discipline to really anything to do with horses. Um,
Yeah.
and you've made it clear that your partnership is really about, or your passion is really about developing that partnership between horses and their owners. Can you kind of dive into why that establishing that partnership is so important?
Yeah. It's amazing how obedient horses can be. And that's why like anybody that's committed to it enough can get a horse to do kind of what they want, if they're willing to outlast them. But if you can cause your idea to become the horse's idea, it can go much smoother, and can be way less stressful for the horse. And
Yeah.
so I always try to work from where the horse is at, and understanding that whatever my idea is initially going to be seen by them as a trap, just based on their pre-animal instincts. And so if I can set up my idea in a way that looks like the comfortable place to be for them, they can get on board with it, and then they can put effort into doing my idea. And that is again what I really learned from Doug is how to do less and work with the horse where the horse is at and build that connection with them. That's what's a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of on that note, you've talked about how being a good trainer and clinician really starts with being a good horseman. And we had Pat Pirelli on this webinar series a few months back, and that was something he really enjoyed talking about as well. Can you kind of dive into the kind of nuances behind those titles, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, I think different people throw those phrases out in different ways. To me,
Yeah.
horsemanship is the ability to read the horse very well. Like for example, one of the first lessons I had with Doug, he noticed that the horse's ears weren't up towards the cow. The ears were slightly tipped back towards the rider. And well, right away that tells him the horse isn't connected to the flag or the cow. It's connected to the rider, which is not what we want when we're cutting. We
Yeah.
want the horse reading the cow. And so he got me to really pay attention to the subtleties of where the horse's body was at, where their mind was at. And I think a person, before they really focus on a sport specific thing, if they can learn to read a horse really well, they're going to make better decisions with what technique to use from there. And the other part of it is it's very human nature to want to show up to the pen that you're catching your horse in with a list of, here's my agenda, this is what I want to do. And it's horses can wake up on the different side of the stall every day.
Yeah.
And so if we can learn to really work with the horse where the horse is at, things will go a lot smoother versus us. If the horse isn't meeting our expectations, it can very easily lead to getting frustrated or upset with what the horse is doing. But if we can understand things from their perspective first and get that communication working, then whatever it is we want them to do, whether it's trail riding or ranch versatility or dressage, it can go so much smoother because the communication lines are open.
Yeah, yeah. And if someone is working with the horse for the first time, or maybe they just got a new horse, whatever the situation is, how do you kind of guide them into meeting that horse where it's at? Like, how do you or yourself approach understanding each individual horse?
Yeah, I think the very first thing I look for is connection. I want the horse to want to be looking to me for comfort and for relief. And so most horses can easily be distracted. They can be distracted by their surroundings, or their mind can be back with the other horses. So the first thing to me is just getting the horse hooked onto you and being connected. And then from there, it kind of gets specific to what horse we're referring to.
Mhm.
Some horses, horses can have different personalities, and some of them can be more stubborn, and you got to create motivation and willingness. Some horses can be really fearful, and you got to create more confidence and relaxation. And so once you have either horse, once you have them connected with you, then you can kind of make decisions on which way to go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, body language and however you feel the horse is kind of responding to you in the moment kind of guides how you continue to move forward in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's three basic things that I'm trying to teach every horse, which is to understand steady pressure. A lot of our rein aids or leg aids in the saddle is steady pressure. If you take a horse that's wild, the steady pressure is one of the most innately scary things to them, is to follow a feel. And we take it for granted a bit if you handle a lot of horses that already like halter broke and things like that. But getting them to follow a feel, it can be a scary thing. So I try to teach them that at a really deep level by asking them to give to pressure in a lot of different ways, or maybe leading by a foot, or lowering their head down, backing up at the same time, just different things to get them following a feel. And then they have to understand driving pressure, and that's more natural to horses. So that's almost more about the human learning how to use driving pressure, but it's like kind of herding them around in different ways. And then a lot of horses don't understand the difference between our energy versus our intention. And so it's almost like we have to teach them, like if you're, say, putting fly spray on them, the fly spray has like a rhythmic motion to it that can be scary to them. But if they can learn to read our intention and not the energy of the fly spray or the flag or the saddle pad or you name it, whatever stimulus is upsetting them, if they can really get in tune with our intention, we can kind of go to that next level of things where they're all of a sudden not having to tackle every specific thing that a horse could be afraid of, to
Yeah.
have them stay with us.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. And obviously, you've taught a lot of these things in clinics, but of course, you've also gained this really significant following on social media, especially YouTube and Patreon, where you're putting out these horsemanship and training tips. What kind of made you want to start doing that and putting out that sort of content, and what do you enjoy most about doing that?
Yeah, so I was teaching a lot of clinics, and I had a lot of feedback that they really liked my style of presenting information. And a lot of these were people that had been doing a lot of clinics, had done many clinics, and they liked the way I explained things. And I kind of started to believe I had a good way of saying things. And so I wanted to be able to communicate my philosophy on a larger scale. And YouTube really gave me that opportunity. And one of my kind of specialties is working with problem horses that have learned a really negative behavior, or a horse that's really been difficult to communicate what the owner wants the horse to be doing. And I really love solving that puzzle. So it kind of goes hand in hand with what I really enjoy, which is that first session of trying to understand where the horse is at and how to get the horse to want to participate with whatever it is we're trying to get them to do. That very first session to me is very special, because I have to like puzzle solve my way through it. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do until I get there. And
Yeah.
trying to read the horse and understand what the horse is trying to do, and then figuring out how can we create what we want them to do to be the comfortable thing for that horse. And what's fun about YouTube is there's a million different examples of like a lot of different situations that a person's struggling with that horse. So there's a lot of common things that I do with all of them. But I try to approach every situation from a unique perspective of understanding where that horse is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in obviously the digital day and age, it's such a cool tool for people to have, especially if they're not able to come to an in-person clinic, they're on the other side of the country, whatever it may be. And, it's just if they, whether they're familiar with your work or not, they're able to find these situations they may be facing with their own horse. And I think that's a really cool thing for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Something kind of behind the scenes that I would like to share too is most of the time, if not all the time, the horses I'm using on YouTube videos, it's free. There's no cost to them for me going there, because the YouTube advertising, the AdSense pays for my expenses getting
mhm.
there. Whatever. Sometimes I'm flying across the country to work with that horse.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is once I get a good understanding of where that horse is at, what the a good program moving forward is going to be, I try to get those people in touch with either my program online, if that's all, if they're able to do it themselves, or if they need a training, I can set them up with a local instructor or trainer that is somebody that I would recommend. And so a lot of people don't know that there is a
Yeah.
follow-up plan for most of those
Yeah.
people in
That's
the
really
video.
cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool setup. Yeah. And then kind of pivoting to those in-person clinics and demos, since you do so much of that as well. For those who haven't attended a clinic or anything, what would you kind of say to someone to encourage them to attend one? What do you think people can benefit from attending clinics?
Yeah, every clinic has a different focus. Like I just finished a trail riding clinic where we are focused on trail training, getting our horses to be well behaved on trail rides and enjoyable to ride.
Yeah.
Um, but there's an underlying theme behind every clinic that I do, which is trying to show people it's such human nature to just tell the horse what you want or try to make the horse do what you want. And we have to think quite a bit more about it and fight some of our natural instincts in order to set things up in a way where the horse is choosing to do the behavior that we want. And to me, if it's a very satisfying thing, like even for example, let's say your horse isn't standing still to be saddled. It's like you could find different ways to tie them up or cross tie them or different things and try to manage them to get the saddle on. But even if you can just drop the lead rope and say, whoa, and the horse will stand perfectly still to be saddled, that it feels very satisfying, even something as simple as saddling the horse up when the
Yeah.
horse is participating in it. All the way up to, putting your hand down in front of a cow and the horse hooking on and holding the cow, or putting your hand down on a trail ride and having the horse just not speed up or slow down, just maintaining their position on the trail. That's the feeling that I'm wanting people to experience with their horses, where they can have that connection where the horse is participating in the idea. And to me, that's the most satisfying thing. So I'm not really into any one particular thing with horsemanship. I
Yeah.
just love all those little moments where the horse is connecting to our idea.
Yeah, I think that's really special because I mean, we all know there's so many different things you can do with horses, but at the end of the day, and every horse is an individual, but we need to know how to approach them as an individual and understand their brains don't work the same way ours do. So, it's really interesting to be able to have such a wide base from down to the basics to maybe something more specific like trail riding, like you said. Um, that way you can apply it to, you know, all the situations you could possibly encounter with a horse. And with that, are there any specific challenges or issues that you really enjoy working with the most with horses that you encounter?
Yeah, so just to finish what I was saying a second ago
Yeah.
about building that connection, that there is a downside to that. That sounds all nice, right? The
Yeah.
downside is it's against our instincts to do that. Like, let's say we want the horse to go into a horse trailer. Like, it's human nature to pull and spank and put more pressure on and just make, try to make them get on. And so when I'm telling this to people at the clinics, it sounds really nice, me talking about building connection, this and that.
Mhm.
But the reality is, when we have to have some patience in there to set up a situation, and a lot of times I'll use the phrase, let the pattern do the work, where instead of, because it's such human nature to, if I do more, I'm going to get more of what I want, but very
Mhm.
seldom with horses does that work out. And so it's quite challenging actually to learn to come at it from a more lateral perspective and get the horse to choose it. So I just wanted to add that
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and now your question of what
Yeah,
specific
like
things do I
just
like working with?
yeah, if there are specific challenges or issues that are kind of your favorite to tackle and work on with a horse or with their person for that matter.
I have a lot of those. A couple of common ones that come up that I really enjoy is when somebody has a horse that's hard to catch. So like you turn them loose to say in a round pen or a paddock, they're just going to leave. They're not going to stick around. There's a game that I teach called the Find Your Herd game, and it works incredibly well. And it's so counterintuitive because you actually just run to the spot where the horse is and put pressure and then settle there and wait for an opportunity for the horse to look at you and think in. Um, and it works amazing. So I love that moment when the horse changes. This horse that was hard to catch now is just following you around the pen and hooked on at Liberty. I
Mhm.
really enjoy that moment. I also really love a good trailer loading, horse that's
Yeah.
because like for me, like all the time, say you pull into the vet and you're gonna drop your horse off or something, and somebody else can't get their horse on the trailer,
Mhm.
I'll
Mhm.
want and see if they're in the mood to get some help or if they're committed to their way of doing it. But a lot
Yeah.
of times it's like just a simple adjustment of what the timing, the feel and the timing of what they're doing, and within seconds or minutes the horse is in the trailer. That's always pretty fun to do as well.
Yeah, for sure. No, and you're right. That's a situation I think we've all come across in one situation or another, is whether it's ourselves or people we see in the parking lot of the vet or horse show struggling to get that horse in a trailer. It's just kind of a universal problem in the equine world. So I can see how that is a good one for you. And of course, we have to talk about something really exciting, and that's how you're set to be a championship competitor at Road to the Horse 2026. What did it mean to you to receive that invitation, and what are you most looking forward to about it?
That it really meant a lot to me, especially the way they introduced me. It's been a goal of mine almost my entire career. When I first started doing this after I graduated, I was chasing that, wanting to compete at Road to the Horse. And for many years, I thought it wasn't going to ever come to fruition. It just seemed hard, hard to get into, hard to break into that network. And I was super proud of it because I think my YouTube channel is one of the main reasons I was selected. I don't know this
Mhm.
for a fact, but I just would assume
Yeah.
my YouTube video is one of the main YouTube channel was one of the main reasons. And I was just really proud because there was about 2 or 3 years where I was training horses full time. I was doing clinics on the weekends, and was editing videos at 10, 11 o'clock at night to
Yeah.
get this done. And that was really tough to stick with it and not give up because it didn't make any money. It wasn't doing anything. It wasn't helping the business. But then you started seeing light at the end of the tunnel, and I stuck with it all the way to I felt like that helped me get to Road to the Horse. So I was really proud of it. And then colt starting is one of my passions. It's probably something I've spent the most time doing in my career. While I was a professional horse trainer, I mostly was starting colts for people. And so I've started over 1,300 horses. And
Mhm.
it's a special experience to put the first ride on them and try to, especially when you have a horse that's not, doesn't have any baggage. A lot of the horses people see on YouTube, somebody else has already taught them the wrong thing, to either, to push into pressure or to be afraid of something or whatever. And so you're already working from behind on those horses.
Mhm.
But on a colt that just hasn't had hardly any handling, they're kind of a blank slate. And so teaching them to have a positive experience with people and teaching them to try can really set that horse up for the rest of its career. And for me, I just take it very serious, and it's super fun and rewarding to do it. So I'm very excited to
Yeah.
showcase my skills. I'm also very excited that Nick Dowers is going to be competing. He's a horseman that I've respected for a very long time. Tried to pick up any tips I could from him and what he was doing. And so I'm excited to have that as a challenge to be competing against him. Elisa Wallace is also going to be there, and she's a really tough competitor and great at the Mustang things. So I imagine the colt starting is going to be right up her alley. So I think it's going to be a really competitive year, and I'm very excited to just be part of that group in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations, because like you said, it's something that you worked for so long and took a lot of work. And I think you're probably right about your YouTube channel and your social media presence having been a huge factor in that, and having persevered for it helped get you there. But like you said, it's just, I mean, it's such a small class every year for one thing, so it's such a narrow chance to even get to be there. So yeah, I think that's really exciting, and I'm sure you'll bring a lot of attention to the event too, with the following that you've built. So and definitely full circle with you having that cult starting background and passion. And obviously we've talked quite a bit about every horse as an individual, but when you first start with that cult, kind of what do you find to be the best approach when you step in with that colt for the first time?
So those horses are in a brand new environment for them. They're going into this arena with thousands of people staring at them and all the noises, and they're used to running on a ranch. And I used to go down near Pitchfork Ranch
Mhm.
to Circle Bar, a ranch called Circle Bar Ranch. So I know that area. I know how those horses are raised, and it's a big experience for them. So they're looking for safety and comfort. And so the last thing I want to do is walk in there and start bossing the horse around and letting it know it's in a competition and we need to go win this.
Yeah.
My main priority is going to be to make friends with the horse and get it to find me as comfort and relief. And if I can do that, I think that'll set us off on the right foot for everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Going from running around on the open space at the Pitchfork is much different than being in Alltech Arena with that big crowd watching you, for sure.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, can you imagine from their perspective? It's like, they've
yeah.
just gotten hauled across the country and they're standing in a pen where it's pretty quiet and secure with all their buddies. And then all of a sudden they're
Yeah.
brought into the arena by themselves. And so what's interesting though, is a lot of people would say, oh, that's a really hard, scary environment and maybe shouldn't do that with the horse. But there's always like a flip side to it where it also creates a really incredible opportunity for the horse to bond with you. So
Hmm.
while that horse is being kind of overstimulated initially by being separated and in a round pen, in the big arena, um, it's going to be pretty worried and pretty bothered. But if it can find comfort and relief with the human in there, that horse is really going to get on board. And I
Yeah.
find that I've competed in quite a few of these colt starting competitions, and I find that you can actually make way more progress with them in that environment than you can if it was just, in my pasture in the round pen in one of my pastures.
Yeah.
Because it's just not, it doesn't have that same contrast that it has in that environment.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but that makes sense that in kind of an overwhelming situation, you kind of become their constant and their comfort person. So, yeah, that's really
If you
unique
set it up
perspective.
right.
Right.
It can go,
Absolutely.
it
That
can go,
that part's important for sure. You
yeah,
don't want
it
to,
can go the opposite way on you
it
too,
sure
where
can.
now,
Yeah.
yeah, you just become more pressure and trouble to it, and then it
Yeah.
doesn't want anything to do with you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely all all about the approach.
Yeah.
I do want to talk, of course, too, about how you and your wife Emily operate Rose Horsemanship Center together up there in Wisconsin. Just can you talk a bit about how you two work together as a team?
Yeah, it's amazing to have her with me because I get a lot of free advice. Her specialty is in physical therapy. So she's has a doctorate in physical therapy for humans, and She also specialized in the pediatrics, babies that were born premature and stuff. And so she had to use body, read their body language to find out what was causing them discomfort because they couldn't communicate what hurts or not. Well, that was the same thing she needed with horses. Horses can't tell us what hurts or whatnot. And so it can be tricky to figure out if something's bothering them or they're lame, what's wrong. And she, as good as anybody I've ever seen, observes horses and sees what they're doing. Because as soon as we start influencing what they're doing, we start covering up what the problem is, I think. But she watches them when they're in the stall or they're in the paddock. And like, for example, she might notice that a horse will reach to swish flies off on the right side of its body, but it's not ever tipping its nose to the left. So it's like where a trainer would be like, oh, well, I need to work on the left flexion, and try this training strategy and whatnot. And so watching her observe the horses and really figure out where they're at is, for me, is very helpful, because sometimes I'll have a horse I'm riding that something isn't working the way I think it should work, or it's not progressing as fast as I think it should. And I can always grab her and ask her to take a look at it and see if she thinks it's something physical. One example that I thought was also very interesting, this is quite a few years ago now, but I had an Arabian horse in training, and it was a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, and it couldn't canter on the same lead on a circle to save its life. It just could not lope one circle around without crossfire and counter canter and just doing all kinds of weird things. And I thought, well, it hasn't been trained much. It needs more training. And so we kept working with it, mostly trotting. And I thought, while I'm trotting around, it's going to build more strength and it's going to get better at this. And we're like 2 months in, and we're riding the horse around and everything, but the canter is still horrible, like not good at all. And so finally I asked Emily what to do. And she's like, basically like, oh, it's simple. Get the horse to stand on a platform, and I'm going to pull on its tail, so many times, and get it to weight its hindquarters in different ways. And I'm like, how in the world is this going to help cantering? But it needed to make more of a mental mind-body connection, that horse did. And so after doing these exercises, like within a couple of weeks, it could lope 3 or 4 or 5 circles really nicely. And I was just blown away by the impact that it had. So I really believe in what she does, and I've seen a lot of really cool transformations. She's also a dressage rider, and she's competing at Pre-St. George level, and so it's been fun to see her, compete in some big shows and things like that. One of the last shows I went to with her, she was competing against a Olympic silver medalist in the same class, and so that was a little nerve-wracking, but pretty cool at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. Yeah, it's really, it does help to kind of have that different perspective. And it's really cool that she was able to kind of translate those, physiology, physical therapy skills that she had with humans and to horses. And I think that's such a important perspective to have, because like you said, a lot of times the trainer's just going to be like, oh, well, we need to work on that side. And she's able to be like, no, there might be something going on there. So it's really cool that you guys are able to kind of work together and use your skills to help a certain situation.
Yeah. One other thing that's kind of special about it is, like, if you have to have a surgery on your horse, and so the vet does the surgery or whatever, there's usually not a great plan of how to rehab the horse back into full work. Because usually, they're on stall rest for a while, or they say walk them 10, 20 minutes or whatever. And what's nice is, because that's Emily's specialty, is she can give them a really constructive program to follow, rehabbing them back into work. And so I think the success rate of a lot of horses that she's helped with their surgeries has gone way up with that. So kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That really is. I have a few more questions for you before we head into the audience Q&A. Kind of a fun question. Do you have any standout moments? It can be more than one that you've experienced with horses so far.
There's one that really stands out to me. Last year, or actually it was January, I competed in the Mustang Magic with my Mustang Marley. And, 4 months earlier, she was wild and, didn't want to have anything to do with me. And she would charge me on the ground and things like this. And now fast forward, I made the finals, and I'm standing in the alleyway at the John Justin Arena, ready to walk into a sold out arena. I don't know, there's 5,000-6,000 people in there. The DJ's got the music cranked up and the place is just bussing. And I'm standing in the alleyway for the national anthem, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm about to walk in here with my Mustang to perform. And I'm like questioning all my decisions at this point. Actually, it's like more of a fear thing of like this. It's not like I can't believe we got here. It's more like I can't believe I'm about to do this and try to
Yeah.
live through it.
Yeah.
Scary thing. And so I'm like gonna drag a surfboard with like a dummy on it into the arena as part of my act for
Mhm.
Surfing USA. And so I have to ride one-handed. And I'm just thinking like, this is a horrible idea. Like I'm gonna go in there and she's gonna peel off one way or the other, and it's just gonna go south. And I trotted her into the arena, and it was as if it was just her and I in that arena,
Mm.
and there was nothing else going on. She was 100% connected with me and did everything I asked her to do out there. We made some mistakes out there, but they were more my rider error, missing my cues or timing with things. But she would just gave me 100% out there. And yeah, that was real special.
That's really awesome. Hey, and you live to tell the tale too. So no,
Yeah,
that's really
it's just
cool.
unbelievable. Like, because she was a really difficult horse to train and
Mhm.
really hard to sell her on your idea. She really wanted to do her thing,
Sure.
very stoic and just wanted to just kind of be left alone. And so to have her just commit to being a partner, for 5 minutes and be there 100% with all those conditions it just blew me away that it's even possible.
Yeah, it just makes it all the more rewarding for sure. Yeah, that's really cool. What advice do you have for aspiring horsemen or horsewomen, whatever their goals may be?
Yeah. Is that for like horsemanship or like for equine professional?
Uh, Probably, yeah, a professional if they want to kind of follow in your footsteps, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say for a professional, there's two pieces of advice that I think are critical. One is again, find somebody that you like their style and what they're doing and how they're training their horses, and lock in there and recognize that it takes years to get really good at this. Like a lot of people want to do like 4 weeks, 3 months. um, excuse me, but it usually takes several years to really understand a person's program and really get the experience needed to be really good at it. And I think that's the fastest way there. A person could learn kind of how to train a horse and then go out on their own right away, but they're going to get a lot of experience. And experience is what you get after you make the mistake. And so it's a lot easier to make those mistakes when you're working for somebody else than it is when you're on your own. There's
Right.
maybe lesser consequences of it. So that would be one piece of advice: is get your skills really, really good before you go out on your own, and locking in with one person's program that you really like. So be picky, make a good decision there with who you're studying with. Um, Secondly, learn as much as you can about business, because it's not talked about enough, in my opinion, in the horse industry, of how important your business knowledge, your like how to manage your money and insurance and taxes and the finances and all that stuff really plays a big role into how stressful or not stressful your job is. I would say that training horses is just half of it. The whole other half is all the business aspects that go into it. So get good at the business stuff, and you won't have to risk getting burnt out or having a job. I see a lot of people where they're just working like 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they can't ever seem to get out of that. And I really think horse trainers could make a really good living and have a much better peace of mind, I guess, less stressful for them if they had their business organized as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. I think it's something that's not talked about enough, and a lot of people just dive headfirst into that passion and then maybe kind of end up in deep waters with the business side of things. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's really solid.
and set up and tell them to set up a Roth IRA retirement account.
For
A lot of
sure.
horse trainers don't set up a retirement account, and it's like a
Yeah.
really easy step to go do. Doesn't take a lot of money to get started, and once you get it set up, you won't even notice it, and then you'll be able to retire with financial freedom.
Yeah, there you go. My last question for you before the audience portion is, in addition to Road to the Horse, can you give us some insight into anything exciting that may be coming up for you that you want to share?
Um, well, and next, not this weekend, but the following weekend, we have our Horseman Symposium event, which is a big event that I put on, I host. And I bring in some of my favorite mentors. So Craig Johnson will be there. He'll be doing some reining horse demonstrations. One of my friends, Nate Bowers, is a big cattle guy out in Colorado. He's going to be doing some stock horse and stock dog demonstrations. And then my wife's dressage instructor, Barron, is going to be coming up from Florida and showing kind of basic dressage fundamentals all the way up to advanced dressage maneuvers. So those will be really fun. That's a great event, and it's usually a good time. Like you get to see a lot of people that you usually only see once a year or whatever,
Sure.
and so it's like a big reunion.
Absolutely. Well, that's really exciting, and that it's so soon. That sounds like a lot of fun. All right, well, we'll head into the audience Q&A now. So again, everybody, there's a Q&A button on your screen, and that's where you'll just type in any questions that you have, and we'll run through them. So to start with, Grace asked, you've traveled around the world with horses. Where is your favorite place horses have taken you?
Oh, that's a good question.
It can be more than one.
Yeah. So probably one of my most favorite places I've been to is Italy. There's a ranch there called the Double J Ranch. It's in Traversetolo, Italy, and it's with one of the most amazing families that I've ever known, the Rinaldi family. And
Mhm.
the people over there are just like so kind, and they speak from the heart, I think, more than people do in America. You know, we're kind of like, "Hi, how's it going? How's the weather?" You know, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Where they're the way they speak about things. They're just a little bit more vulnerable and authentic, and
Hmm.
we just had an amazing experience. We've been there multiple times, and then the food is just like
Of course.
it's like, like it's amazing over there. So that's probably one of my favorite
Yeah.
places to.
Absolutely. Allison's question is, could you share some information on your internship program for anyone interested in learning from you?
So I don't have much of an internship program. I occasionally have interns, um, but I don't really have a program, an internship program per se.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Someday there might be. I do have a big idea, big plan that if things come together, there will be a bigger internship program. But right now I don't have a ton of horses, and that's kind of the limiting factor to it. Is I just have a handful of my own horses because I'm traveling a lot for filming. So right now that's not. I don't have much to offer because there's not many horses to ride.
Yeah. Speaking of traveling, Tanya's question is, do you ever host clinics in British Columbia, Canada?
I do not. Canada is actually very difficult to work in legally. So you
Mhm.
can go over there and say you're on holiday, but I can't bring myself to do that. I actually tried to get into Canada. I thought I had all the paperwork, and I got turned away at the border and banned for 4 years.
Oh my goodness. You're not even that far from Canada either.
No, no, but I told them I was working. I told them what we were doing, and they did not like it. And I thought I had the paperwork needed to legally teach there. Um, so I know a lot of people do teach in Canada, but I get a lot of requests to go do clinics in Canada, but unfortunately, I've not had good experiences trying to get into Canada
Yeah,
legally.
fair enough. Yeah, maybe one day, maybe one day.
I'm not banned anymore, though. That was a long time ago.
Good, good. Susan's question, she says, you talk a lot about connection and meeting the horse where it's at. As an old but novice horse person, can you elaborate on reading the horse in terms of kind of what you look for first?
In terms of like fear or connection.
Um, I guess just whatever. She didn't really elaborate on that, but when you first want to read the horse, what are you kind of looking for?
Yeah, there's a lot. It kind of starts with the head and facial features, like um, is their head up or down? Usually can be an indicator. Some horses can be worried or bracy and have their head down, but a lot of horses will have their head up and more of an alert state. If their ears are kind of like pricked backwards, pretty strong, that can be them kind of planning an exit strategy. I'm very aware of like how much they're blinking or if they're licking and chewing. If their
Mhm.
mouth is really tense, if their lips are really pursed, that can not be a great sign. And so I'm really big on building a lot of confidence, relaxation into them, getting them to lower their head, relax their jaw. One little side note to this, some people will like stick their finger in their horse's mouth to like get them to lick and chew. But I think that they call them jaw releases. But I do think it's better to have the horse organically switch nervous systems and feel more comfortable when they lick and chew.
Mhm.
Another thing that I'm really aware of that's really important is where the rib cage is at. So it's very natural for a horse to take a counter bend. And what they're doing is they're using their inside eye to look forward, and they're using their outside eye to look kind of behind them. And it's a defensive mindset that they're in. Every horse does this naturally. And so to whatever degree your horse isn't doing that, you've taught them not to do that. And so being very aware of that is super important. Another reason why that's important, though, just coming back from this trail clinic, I have a lot of people say, I was riding along on the trail, everything was going fine, and then all of a sudden, X happened. And rarely does it go like that. I mean, occasionally, yeah, a turkey bomb can go off in the brush and it scares your horse, but then it was like obvious what scared them. But when you're saying, everything was fine and then all of a sudden they blew up, usually it's not. Usually they got tight, their stride tempo changed, their head went up, or more subtly than that, if you're riding them and you feel their rib cage push to one side or the other more, and they're taking a kind of that defensive posture, that's a good time to start implementing some recovery strategies, getting them connected with you before continuing.
Okay, yeah. Jenny's question is, do you have a strategy for your approach for Road to the Horse, knowing it may change depending on the colt?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's like some, certain yields that you have to be able to get done with the horse. I want to see them be really understanding of steady pressure and rhythmic pressure. I want them to be really good at being confident with the human. I don't want them to be afraid of me. So I want them to accept the saddle, and then I want them to be accepting of the environment. And so there's going to be a lot of specific things that I work on to build those 4 areas of the horse. But overall than that, the overarching theme of everything I do with a horse is I'm following 3 principles. I'm trying to work with the horse where the horse is at, is number 1. I'm trying to do less first is the second principle that I follow. I'm always trying to see how little could it take. A lot of times I joke with people and I say speed kills, but a lot of times people do things too fast with their horse. And they put brace into their horse by just moving too quickly. The third thing that I really believe in is building connection before position. So before I try to get their body to go carry itself in a certain way, I want the horse to understand what I'm asking for. That's what I mean by connection. Once they understand what I want, then I'm going to start being picky about how they did it. But a lot of people worry about how they did it first before did the horse understand, ABC first.
Yeah, and you kind of have to have that baseline of understanding before you can move any further. So, yeah.
Yeah. And if you see a horse, you'll like, especially in common, maybe a lot of different performance training circles where they're using different devices to make the horse's body be in a certain frame or position. And if the horse understands the position, it'll be relaxed. If the horse does not understand the position or the pressure, that's when you'll see a horse be really uncomfortable. So most people think horses are uncomfortable because of the pressure, but it's not the pressure that makes them uncomfortable. It's when they don't understand what to do with it that makes them uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Lynn has a question. She said, it's challenging to get timing down when it comes to a feel. What can you recommend to get better about improving your timing?
That is a great question. And I would say it's a simple answer, but not easy, is I would say always take a measurement. And what I mean by that is every time I ask a horse for something, I measure how much pressure did I use, how quickly did I bring the pressure on or take it off, and then I'm going to err on the side of releasing too early versus too late. So let's say I'm asking the horse to lower it in some way, but it didn't really lower its head, but I felt it soften, so I released. So then I'm going to take a measurement and I'm going to, whatever cue I used, I'm going to apply that cue again. And if this time the horse lowers its head more, then I know that my timing was good before. If this time if the second time I ask, it takes even longer to get the horse to lower its head, then I know my timing was too early and the horse really didn't understand it, and they kind of maybe just learned to wear the pressure at that time. And so I'm always just measuring what I did with what I got. And I'm always challenging that. I'm always trying to be right on the money with it.
Yeah, makes sense. Lynn has another question. What will you look for from the selection of colts for Road to the Horse?
That's another good question. Uh, I'm going to look for one that I think kind of generally, I'm going to look for an easy one, which I think is the kind of the main idea. I think some people maybe will occasionally will pick one that they think is not the easiest one, but they like it for some reason. But essentially, I'm going to try to pick one that I think wants to work with people. Maybe it's friendly to come up to people in the pen, one that looks more soft and relaxed. I'm really big on how they lope off. Some horses, I've trained like thousands of horses, and some horses naturally lower their head and lope off in a very comfortable, relaxed state. And so when they turn them loose in the big arena, that will mean probably more to me than whatever I see them do when they're in the pen in the back. Because in the pen in the back, they're eating and they're all kind of have their heads down and they're kind of chilled. But when they're out in the arena and there's some pressure on them, I want to see, do they stick their head straight up in the air and trot off real fast, or do they kind of horse lower their head down and lope off nicely? Because my experience has been that those horses are super trainable, because cantering is a more emotional gait for horses than walking or trotting is. And so how they lope off means a lot to me.
That's really interesting. Yeah. Isabel's question is, what situations with horses do you find to be the most challenging?
I don't think I have like a specific yield or technique or something like that that's more challenging. I think it maybe the situation is challenging when an owner has a horse that is too much horse for them. They're like a really difficult horse, because it's like horses are a big commitment, and if you have a horse that you find out has major problems or is too much for you or is too dangerous for you, it's not like you can just let them go or turn them loose.
Yeah.
And so that's a tough situation to navigate, especially if they bought the horse like through an auction or something and they paid a lot of money for the horse, and now it's like too difficult for them. That's a difficult situation because you can't change a horse's disposition. You can modify behaviors, you can teach them new skills, and you can do all those things. But baseline, if somebody's a more of a green rider, green horse owner, they ideally would find a horse that is a pretty gentle natured horse. I kind of rank them from a scale of like 1 to 10, 1 being like super gentle, 10 being like very, very not gentle, very wild, innately wild. And it kind of blows me away how some people don't recognize that you can have a range of horses' dispositions. Like I don't believe at all in trying to make the horse fit your program. It's like there can be so many differences in there. And for most people, if they can find a horse that's like a six and lower, they can find a way to deal with it. But if somebody needs a horse that's like a 2 or a 3 and they have an 8 or a 9, that's just going to be a difficult situation for them, long term, or especially if they're learning. That's when it's going to be really challenging. So those are the situations where there's just not an easy answer for them, and so that's what makes it hard.
Yeah, that makes sense, because at that point it's just kind of a compatibility thing versus a situation you can really work on. Helen asked, what are your best tips for calming down an anxious horse?
It kind of depends why the horse is anxious. So the first step would be to understand why it's anxious. Some horses are anxious when they're away from the other horses. Some are anxious as like a habit from when they're getting rode. Some are anxious, in this environment versus that environment. So understanding that, but there's a game that I teach all the time, which I think is probably the easiest answer for me to give you for this, which is a game I call the 3-circle game. So like I was saying earlier, how horses have a counter bend. I ask them to walk a circle around me with an inside bend. So I push their ribs and their hindquarters to the outside, and I try to get them to tip their nose and neck to the inside. And when a horse can commit to 3 or 4 steps on a circle and stay flexed in, they have to be at a certain level of relaxation to be able to do that. And so I find that if a horse is really anxious, if I put them in that position, initially I'm teaching it, that builds in relaxation. Once they know it, then I can use it if they become anxious. So I call that a recovery strategy. So it's like, it's not uncommon that a horse, even that's trained well, gets bothered about something at some point. But if I can bring them back and get them relaxed and connected with me quicker, I can go back to doing more of what I wanted to be doing.
Gotcha. Okay. Lynn said, Ryan, Emily was right. Marley and you are meant to be together. What plans do you have for Marley over the next couple of years?
So Marley, I don't know if Marley wants to do what I want to do. Marley's more woe than go, pretty lazy. We just had her on the trail rides. It was her first trail ride, and my wife rode her at the trail clinic that we just did, and she was perfect. She was just an absolute rock star. Didn't just was absolutely fantastic. Um, I would like to go win the NVRHA national show, which is a ranch versatility competition, and I just think it would be kind of special to do it with her. But I don't know if she has as much drive for that as I do. And so I'm just going to kind of keep chipping away at it for now. I don't have any I'm not doing any serious training for her. I want to be demonstrating with her at Road to the Horse and at some horse expos next spring. And so we'll see how she does with that. And I'm going to keep kind of gearing her towards the ranch versatility. But if she doesn't really want to work a cow and do some of the faster movements, then she'll end up being just a great kind of clinic horse and a great demonstration representation of Mustangs in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, it's all about meeting the horse where they're at, even if it's not exactly what you had in mind, I guess. So,
Yeah.
um, and then finally, where can people find you if they want to continue to learn from you or follow your journey, especially with Road to the Horse in a few months? Where's the
Yeah.
best place?
So YouTube is probably one of the best places to go. I try to post a video there about once a week. So my YouTube channel is just Ryan Rose, and should be pretty easy to find on there. And then on every other social media network. If you really want to know all the inside first takes of everything, that's always I announce things to Patreon members first, always. So if you guys want first dibs on clinic spots or first dibs on knowing what events are going on, what my schedule is, that'll always get released on my Patreon page first.
Awesome. Well, cool. Thank you everybody for your questions and for attending. And Ryan, of course, thank you so much for your time and your insight. I really enjoyed chatting with you, and I think everybody really enjoyed what you had to say today. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mary.
Okay. Well, have a great day.
All right, you too.
Thanks. Bye.
Everybody.